let's go ahead and get started for the day. And I'll just give everyone just a few quick announcements and then introduce our guest speaker for this particular session. So we're reconvening here with IPE after a little hiatus, and what we're coming back to is our session on quality improvement. So you know from the pre-work that we were looking at the model for improvement through the Institute of Healthcare Improvement. And specifically, we were looking at PDSA cycles and how those can be used to improve different practices in healthcare. And also, I think the modules did a really nice job illustrating how you can use PDSA cycles to improve anything that you want. What we will do today, we're all on the same call right now, and we want to give our guest speaker a few minutes here to talk and open it up for some questions that you have. And what we're going to focus on is Denton Bramwell's experience with quality improvement. Once we move through the initial part of the session, I will put the separate links into the chat, because at that point we will break out into session 2 and section 3. So we'll go back to our normal IPE sections, and that's where we'll take the T route and move through our exercise and into dashboard. So with that, what I'd like to do now is turn it over to our guest today. We have Denton Bramwell joining us. He is co-founder of the Promontory Management Group. He is co-author of Quick Sigma software and author of their management group's Six Sigma curriculum. What we really want to do today is focus on quality improvement, so we're very excited to welcome Denton. And just a little bit of additional background and fun facts. Denton has a bachelor's in physics, so coming from a different perspective than some of you might be coming from in terms of medicine, but also an MBA, and he is a senior master black belt. So Denton, thank you so much for joining us, and I will turn this over to you.
Okay, thank you. I assume you're seeing my slides and everything, and it's all working? Oh, good. I just hate it when I'm talking to a blank wall. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. I hope that you have some questions or that you have comments. Use the chat function or hold your space bar and just chime in if you please. The topic that I was asked to address is quality improvement, or it goes by the name sometimes process improvement or continuous improvement, slightly different names for the same thing. So looking around and wondering what I might bring to the table today, I decided that I have a very simple solution that everybody will like, and it's quick and it's easy. And that is these, the Dilbert Improvements. And you'll notice I got them on sale, 2 boxes for $3. We can pass those out, hand them around, and everybody can then say, oh, we've had wonderful improvements in our area. We've made great improvements. But just on the off chance that that wasn't what you were expecting, I did prepare some other stuff. So I'm going to start with a concept that may be unfamiliar to most of you. In fact, I'm sure it is. COPQ. This, for an organization, is as bad as COPD is for people. Just by chance, does anybody in the group recognize COPQ? Is that something that you've been introduced to? Okay. I'm starting here because it defines some of the opportunity. COPQ stands for the cost of poor quality. And this came out of a manufacturing, retail sales kind of industry, but it's very readily adapted to healthcare. And very simply, it's the cost of not doing everything perfectly the first time. So in the traditional sense, that'll take in your warranty, customer service. You know, if you did everything perfectly, you wouldn't need somebody to answer the phone and solve problems. It involves scrap and rework, which in your industry you have. You have medications that'll go out of date, or sometimes you'll have something that somebody's done that somebody else has to come in and touch up. Had a family member a few years ago that got an artificial heart valve, and the physician didn't quite get the stitch work exactly right, and it was leaking, so they had to go back in and open the chest back up and fix that. Also includes things like looking for lost items, includes unproductive meetings. Now, I'm sure that's never happened in your experience, but just in case, you know, you need to know that it does happen out in the other rest of the world. If you charter a project and you start working on it and then it never gets completed, that's cost of poor quality. All of those things go into it. So let me ask a question, and I would like some responses. How expensive do you think the cost of poor quality is? One of the students, before I have to call on Nicole or David. Come on.
In general or just in medicine?
In general, in American industry.
I don't know, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Okay, can you put it as a percent?
15%.
That's a pretty common guess. Normally when we do this, and we've been doing this for a lot of years, we'll ask students, where do you think it is? And you'll get answers between 5 and 15%. That's what most people will assume. As it happens, one of my good friends and my business partner for many years was a vice president at Hewlett Packard. And part of his job every year was to chair a committee that examined Hewlett Packard's cost of poor quality. And Hewlett Packard is a very well-run company. Gee, when I broke out of college and went to work in industry, I was working at a company competing with them, and I'll tell you, they're tough competitors. They're really tough. Company I worked for was darn good, but Hewlett Packard was better. Turns out that year after year, Hewlett Packard estimated their cost of poor quality at 37% of sales. And usually that shocks people. That's kind of a big number. You think of this, they take in billions of dollars every year, and 37 cents of every one of those dollars goes to service cost of poor quality. And that has some very profound implications, as we'll see. In the healthcare industry, I'd rather call it consequences of poor quality, because there are things that are hard to put dollars on. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with their well-being. You've got to deal with malpractice liability, and you've got to deal with provider stress and burnout. I'm good friends with my own general practitioner provider, and he's a super guy, and he is stressed, and he's very frustrated with a lot of the systems that he has to deal with. So I'm going to call it consequences of poor quality. And you can put a dollar sign on it if you want. But the profound consequence of the extremely high cost of consequences of poor quality are that good patient satisfaction, reduced stress, more operating capacity, fewer regulatory problems, and lower cost all happen in the same neighborhood. And you'll sometimes hear people say, well, we can't afford to do better quality. We're already giving the customer as much as we can for the dollar we're charging. And that's not a correct view. As you reduce cost of poor quality, everything else goes up. So all of those good things happen in the same neighborhood. And that's important takeaway number one. So if you're a little shocked at the cost of the consequences of poor quality, maybe you realize that that those things do happen, and we'll see a little bit more about that as we go along. Okay, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the role of quality improvement. And there's a distinction to be drawn. I don't know if you discussed this in your training anywhere, but in the world in general, there's the idea of line functions and staff functions. And I went straight to the ultimate authority, Google, and copied and pasted this. A line function is one that directly advances an organization at its core work. A staff function is support. Okay. So in the healthcare business, the people that actually have their hands on the patient are line people. Quality improvement and almost all of the other functions are staff and exist to provide support. If you think about it, especially in some of the Japanese concepts of organization, they tend toward an inverted pyramid. The CEO is actually at the bottom of the pyramid because he's there to try to keep everybody together and on track and functioning. And sometimes we get a little out of whack. Quality improvement ought to be the line worker's best friend and ally. And if it's not working that way, you're doing it wrong. There's a major healthcare organization that I've got a little window into, and a lot of the line people are very frustrated with the systems and rules imposed on them. What's wrong? Why should that be? Because the quality improvement should be there to help make your life better. And the answer is that they've got their line and staff roles mixed up. And staff is trying to dictate to line how they're doing their job. Anything that you do is a process. Getting up in the morning, fixing breakfast, getting to work. And the fundamental rule is, and this is very often missed, every process belongs to the people who do it. If you're the one that has hands on the patient, you own that process. You're a process owner. And you need to not only do your process, but you ought to constantly seek to find ways to do it better. That rests with the process owner. The role of QI is to coach, to teach, sometimes to provide some technical resources, but the process belongs to the people that do it. Okay, let's shift gears once again and let's talk about inspection. And a lot of times people will say, oh, we need better quality. Oh, let's hire more inspectors. And there are only two problems with that. First of all, it costs a lot of money. And second, it doesn't work very well. In fact, if you study some of the process improvement systems, one of the major objectives of a process improvement or a quality improvement system is to eliminate the need for inspection. Now, you may have seen in the news yesterday that a major vaccine producer spoiled 15 million doses of COVID vaccine. And they said, oh, but the system works. We caught it. What's wrong with that? Your systems ought to be such that that can't happen or won't happen. If you catch it at an inspection, that's better than it getting away, but it's not the way things ought to work. In class, when we do this live, I've got a little 3 or 4 paragraph story that I wrote, and what we do is we say to the students, okay, we'll give you 60 seconds and just pretend that the 6th letter of the alphabet is a defect, and see if you can give me a number, how many defects are in this verbiage. And then we'll go around and say, how many did you get? Oh, I got 26. Oh, good. I got 28. I got 24. No, people don't get the same answer. I went back and checked. We've been using this piece of verbiage since 2008, and in that time, no student has ever gotten exactly the right answer. And what that should demonstrate to you is that inspection is not a path toward world-class quality. In fact, if you do a plot, and we generally have a long discussion about this in class, if you do a plot of the number of defects that escape inspection versus the number of defects that were originally created, it's a straight line relationship. Straight as string. And the answer is, what you have to do is you have to figure out how to not create the defects. You cannot win by inspecting. So, takeaway number 3. One implication of this is responsibility for quality has to rest with the process owner, not the quality advisor. And we need something better than inspection to get to world-class quality. Fortunately, we do have that. So that's takeaway number 3. There are some systems that you will meet as you launch out into the universe. And 3 of them I've got up here. You may study Six Sigma, in which case you'll study define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which, by the way, maps very neatly into Plan, Do, Check, Act, or PDSA, whichever you're using. Six Sigma is a data-driven method for solving problems. That's primarily what we have done. And we have saved our customers literally hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a really powerful system. Another one you might meet is Toyota Production System. This is a management system that drives constant improvement. And third, you might meet Lean. That's pretty common. And it's a waste reduction problem. Waste reduction, it's problem-solving methodology, and it uses tools that it borrowed from Toyota Production System. Toyota Production System really has its roots back in the 1940s, and had some formative things happen later on where they borrowed from U.S. supermarkets and Ford Motor Company and produced Toyota Production System, which is magnificent, okay? So if you're learning Lean, then you'll learn things like MUDA. It's worth your time to learn the 7 or 8 mudas, and just sit and watch around yourself and watch those happen and learn to recognize those. Pull systems, poka-yoke, which is mistake proofing. If you're going to do your hand sanitizer exercise, I would just almost bet that somebody's going to mention poka-yoke before that's over. I don't know. In addition, you'll meet some standards. There's the one that hospitals use for hospital accreditation. There may be others. I'm not an expert in that area. One that you'll meet in general industry is ISO 9000. And ISO 9000, at least, is just a roadmap to running a successful organization. It tells you the things that you have to have. And so our one-liner is that ISO 9000 is the question, and Six Sigma or Lean or Toyota Production System is the answer. So the big takeaway is standards and accreditations don't tell you how to solve the problems, but they set the goal and tell you how to determine when you've arrived. Six Sigma, Lean, and Toyota Production System are systems of thought that will help you. And it's just plain more fun to work in a successful organization. So those are my 4 takeaways. To recap, high quality, high customer satisfaction, lower costs are all found in the same neighborhood. Processes belong to the people that do them. They're responsible for constantly improving them. The role of quality improvement or continuous improvement is teach, support, help, and sometimes to umpire. You will never get to world-class quality by inspection, but there are systems like Six Sigma, Lean, and Toyota Production System that can lead us in the right direction. And that's my little show. Do we have questions or comments, please?
I do have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
In terms of, there's a lot of different ways or approaches that you can take for quality improvement. Is there one that works very well for the healthcare field that you've seen? Or are they all adaptable?
I think pretty much they're all adaptable. And I would say this, it's less important which philosophy you adopt than it is that you find one and use it. We've had great success in a lot of places with Six Sigma. And at its core, Six Sigma is really very simple. A lot of people have unnecessarily complicated it. If you want to just get your toes wet, I'd probably do some Lean. Just learn about Muda, learn about Kanbans, pull systems. Those are all powerful concepts. Okay, Nicole, if I can, the best implementation I ever saw, the thing that got things philosophically right, was a company that was doing near us a really fine Toyota production system. And it was first class, and they were organized into work cells, as TPS will be. And they had on the wall of their work cell, they had what they called the newspaper. And it was just a whiteboard that was divided up. And they kept track of how well they were doing. They kept track of incidents that where they didn't perform as well as they wished they had. And then they would assign people to work on those. Then, when they had one that they couldn't fix with the simple tools that they were given, then the work cell would reach out and they would summon a Six Sigma person who would then work for them in helping them solve the problem. And I think that's kind of the correct order of things. What you don't want to do is the worst implementation is when you've got a core of people that are separate from the line people, and when you've got a problem, you parachute them in, and you say to the manager, "Oh, I see things aren't going so well in your area. I'm sending you David to fix things," and right away the manager is just in love with David because David's coming into his area and messing with his processes and not working for him. The correct thing, if you're the quality professional, is, what can I do to help? Not, I'm here to tell you how to do your job. I don't know. That was kind of wandering, but
I can make analogies to maybe our learning management system at RVU, which somewhat of a joke, but not really. The faculty are nodding their head. We have a quality issue that we would love to fix. So.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like they violated the first rule, which is that the process belongs to the people who do it. They're your customer, and if they're not happy, you haven't designed it right.
And you're exactly right, because when consultants float through to try to fix it, then we're not necessarily getting the fixes that we need.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
For all the students on the call, you did not hear me complain about our LMS.
Well, but that depends whether you think of that as a problem or as an opportunity. Nicole, some people have problems, others just have decisions to make, right? So you have an opportunity and decisions to make.
Well, hopefully our little segue here has shown students that you can use these types of techniques in all aspects of your life. So in terms of the work environment, sometimes it's easily identifiable, but also consider how you can use them in your personal life. And I think that you also got some good examples of that through the module that we asked you to take a look at from the IHI. So are there any other questions the students have for Devin?
Oh, just one comment. If you want to dig deeper in stuff we've done, you can go to the Quick Sigma channel on YouTube. There's tons of it. A lot of it is basically help for using the software, but then there's some more general things that you might find useful, and that's free and it's there.
Well, with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Benton, for joining us today. It was a really great presentation, and I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else learned a lot as well. So for the students, what we're going to do now is we're going to break into our sections. You have those links from before, but just in case, there's section 2. You want to go nab that real quick if you're section 2.